Lost my fish. Hey, lost my fish. I had a little fish. Well, I got a fish on my cup. Fish out of water. Do you feel like a fish out of water much? I actually had a little fish I was going to swim by, but I lost it, so we'll do Eeyore. Eeyore, Eeyore. Eeyore gets to hang out with me one more day because I have a purple robe on today. Otherwise, he's history because he's got the wrong attitude, and I don't like to hang around people with a negative attitude because they increase my feeling of being a fish out of water. I did fish out of water for Supersized Business today, and I just heard my fish fall on the floor. And I don't know that I've given this expression or this idiom a lot of conscious thought throughout my life, but I do know that I have experienced the feeling of being a fish out of water hundreds, if not thousands of times in my life. You know, every time we start something new, every time we're in a new environment, every time we're in a situation or surroundings that don't feel familiar. That's why we love going home, right? We always love going home. Most of us, I'm not going to say everybody, but most of us love going home because we go back to a feeling of familiarity, a feeling of we belong here, whether we belong there anymore or not. It's just this sense of belonging, and I think we all strive and thrive when we're in an environment that nurtures and supports us. So fish out of water, you know, for thousands of years people have known that if you take a fish out of water, out of its natural habitat and environment, it's going to struggle, and it's probably going to die unless you can get it into an environment where it will survive and thrive. So you can take it out of water and put it in another body of water, but if you keep it out of water too long, it's going to die. And that's true, I think, for all of us, right? We need to find environments and situations where we can be our best selves and continue to grow and create the lives that we want. And sometimes we find ourselves in environments that are not good for us. So I spend quite a bit of my life as a fish out of water. And I'm cool with that because it helps me to learn and grow. Actually, looking for ways to feel less comfortable, I did that for a whole year, a couple of years ago. Every single day, I challenged myself, and I did a 360, more like probably a 380-day challenge every single day to stretch my comfort zone because I wanted to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable, and not in a bad way, but just feeling uncomfortable, not in a life or death way, but in a way that stretched what I was able to do and what I was capable of. And I would challenge anyone to do that every single day. Just take one little step to push the bubble of your comfort zone out a little bit, and pretty soon you'll realize that what you were comfortable doing was this little tiny circle of activities. Now all of a sudden it opens the whole world up for you. You're capable of doing almost anything that you can imagine. Secret, you're actually capable of doing absolutely anything that you can imagine. So fish out of water, I really like this expression. And I realized that over the decades of my life, I've actually come up with some pretty good ways to handle that feeling of feeling uncomfortable, to handle the feeling of feeling like I don't belong or I don't fit in. Because every time I started something new, you know, when I went to a new job, when I went to a new school, I remember moving from Hudson, Wisconsin, which was a town of about 5,000 people when I went away to college, to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's not that far away, you know, a few hours. But for me, it was a huge move and a huge difference. I went from a very small high school where I knew absolutely every person's name in that school to a university and a city where it wasn't even possible to ever know everybody or everybody's name. And that was a huge cultural shock and difference for me. And I definitely felt like a fish out of water. I was talking to my sister at dinner yesterday, and I wondered if I had gotten in a different environment, a different dorm and living situation when I went to that school, if I would have survived that experience, or if I would have quit after the first semester and come back home where I didn't feel like a fish out of water, where I felt familiar. But I did get into a really cool environment and situation where I had people around me that were fun and positive and supportive, and we were all in the same boat, right? All of us in this particular situation, or a lot of us, were brand new freshmen in a new environment, in a new city, and a lot of us had come from small towns. So it's not like I was the only one. So I looked for people that were in a similar situation so that we could grow and support one another and move together in surviving this situation or succeeding in school. I did, and I've learned to do at a young age. I don't even remember when I started doing this, but whenever when I knew ahead of time, a lot of times we don't know ahead of time when we're going to be thrown into a new situation or where we feel like a fish out of water. But if I knew ahead of time, I always would plan And I would always build some things in to make me feel more comfortable. I would take things with me that made me feel comfortable. I would always plan to travel and go the day ahead of when I had to be somewhere so I could scope out the environment, so I could scope out the surroundings, so I could find my way to wherever it was I was going. In my corporate jobs, more than one, in my corporate jobs, I traveled a lot. And a lot of times I was going to customers' locations and things and in different countries where I'd never been before. So I would always make sure that I had a travel day ahead of time so that I would get there. If I had to be there on Monday, I was always there early Sunday so I could get a car, I could get transportation, I could figure everything out, and I could travel around and know where I was going and how long it was going to take so I could plan, because that increased my confidence in a new situation. Another thing I would do is I would remind myself that I had been in unfamiliar circumstances before, and I was still here, I was still alive, I'd survived it. Therefore, I knew I'd be able to somehow figure out, no matter what was going on, I'd figure it out. There's always a solution, so I would figure it out. So I knew, and I came to know, that everything I need to handle any situation where I might feel like a fish out of water, it's already inside me. I just have to tap into, well, when have I used that before? When have I done that before? What did I do in this situation that feels a lot like the situation I'm heading into right now? Sometimes we just find ourselves blast into a situation where we feel like a fish out of water and we're not sure how we're going to handle it. Remember one of my corporate jobs, 3 months into it, I inherited the entire sanitation function, and it was for a food manufacturing business, a very large multi-hundred-million-dollar food manufacturing business, and I didn't know anything for the most part about sanitation. I'm talking not zero, but not like I should be running the entire function for a big multi-hundred-million-dollar company. But I knew, since I'd run other functions and I was already running the quality division for this organization, that I'd figure it out. It was going to be hard, but I had resources, I had people, there were things I could ask, I could read, I could study, I could learn, I could look for what was working in the in that function and build on that. So that I knew that I'd been in different situations like that before, so I would figure it out. Was I nervous and scared? And I thought, why am I inheriting this? Why am I getting sanitation? Because I don't know a whole lot about it. But I did know that I had skills and abilities and experience in other areas that were transferable into running that function in addition to the quality function. And you know what? If my boss hadn't thought that I was capable of it, he never would have assigned me both divisions, right? So sometimes we feel like a fish out of water, but if we remind ourselves everything we possibly need to know is something we can learn and figure out. We're not born knowing how to do anything, right? We can breathe, we can probably, do our business, like go potty and things. We can, that's about it. I mean, our body functions naturally, and those bodily functions, blinking our eyes and things, come naturally when we're born. But everything else we learn. We learn along the way. We learn to walk. We learn to talk. How much did you feel like a fish out of water when you first started learning to walk? I don't remember, but I'm sure we all felt, we did it. We fell down. We tried again. We fell down. And that sets us up and set us up for learning how we can handle any situation that's different and new for us, and how we can positively impact our environment. The other thing I learned to do with handling situations that I wasn't comfortable in was look for the positives, look for the familiar, look for the things in that environment or situation that made me feel good. When I went to college, I was one of like 4 women in the engineering program. There were like only a handful of us ever. I think the most women in any of my classes ever was 4. Now, I grew up in a family of all girls, right? I had 3 sisters and an AFS sister, and all of our friends around all the time. So I was generally accustomed to always being around women. So for me, it was a little bit of a culture shock to always be around guys. And I'll admit, guys and women think differently. And so I would always, whenever I went into a new class, I would look for where are the women in this class. And we didn't always be together, but I always knew where they were, and we usually tried to have each other's back, right? Because we knew there weren't very many of us, so we would stick together and help each other out, form study groups, help each other out. So I'd look for things that made me feel more comfortable. Same if you go to a party or something. How often do you walk into a party with not very many people you know? The first thing you do is you look around for people you know. You look around for people that are having a good time. If you want to have a bad time at a party or in any situation, look for what isn't working. Look for the dysfunction. Look for the bad or the angry or the negative, and you'll be out of there in a flash, and you won't feel comfortable. Sorry, I got that cloggy throat today. Excuse me. I warmed it up too, and it's still not working. So, fish out of water. I would actually love to hear your experiences with this and what you did and how you dealt with it. Because if you're here listening to me, you obviously have had lots of these experiences where you faced something new, faced a challenge, been in a situation or an environment that you didn't feel comfortable. I would love to know what you did and how you navigated it. Like I said, until today, I never really consciously thought about how I've dealt with these type of situations. I've just done it. And then as I started thinking, I'm like, well, what have I done in those situations to make me feel like I'm not a fish out of water? And pretty soon you own that water, right? You own that ocean, because you get in, you dive in, you study, you learn, you figure it out, you get familiar with what works for you, you focus on those things. The stuff that doesn't work for you, you kind of let go of, and all of a sudden you own that function. By the time I left that organization, I owned sanitation. I knew so much about sanitation and cleaning. It was a bakery, industrial bakery company, cleaning equipment and chemicals and pest control and you name it. It's mind-boggling. But I told myself when I got into it, well, I don't know anything about this, but I know I can learn and I'm going to figure it out. And that's exactly what I did. And you will too. So I'd love to know your stories about that. Challenges. Today is day 3, I believe, of my no sugar challenge. Yesterday actually was a little easier than the first day because the Cinnabons were still around, but I wasn't tempted to eat them because I was like, yeah, I passed on them yesterday. They're a day stale today, so totally not interested. I will admit, not eating sea salt caramels has probably been my biggest challenge because I used to eat a sea salt caramel before bed every night, which is like totally bad. Which leads me into today's day 3. Yesterday I read labels. I actually read a bunch of labels yesterday, thinking that I could still eat some of my nut butters, but there was only one nut butter that I have. Actually, I think it's from Costco. It's a Kirkland brand, but I'm pretty sure that's from Costco. That's a nut and seeds butter that's actually really, really good. It's the only one I found that didn't have any sugar in it. Every other nut butter, and I have a lot of them in my cupboard because I like to get protein through nuts and things. Every single one had sugar in except that one. So I was reading labels yesterday, and that's what our thing was yesterday. We'll look for things where sugar can be disguised, where we're not sure where we're going to find it. Today we're going to, I don't know what we're going to do today yet. I haven't planned it out yet, and I'll do that video after this. But I'll think of something to do for the no sugar challenge. My biggest thing is just how do I up my willpower? And mostly, I know what it's going to be. I know what it's going to be. It's going to be a look through your pantry and hide all the stuff that's got lots of sugar in it, or hide the sugar. Take the sugar bowl off the counter. That's what it'll be today. So day 3, I'll write that down right now. The other thing I'm going to do with respect to challenges is my sister and I went out to dinner last night, and we were talking about a new thing that she's been doing that she learned from one of her friends. And it's like you eat for 8 hours of the day, and then you fast for 16 hours of the day, so that you go 16 hours without eating. Now, I will admit, I did a 48-hour. It ended up being like a 60-some hour fast earlier. It's either this month or last month. I can't remember. It all runs together. And that actually set my body in starvation mode and shut me down and slowed down my metabolism, which is part of why I'm trying to kickstart it with this no sugar thing, to just kind of shake it up and recharge it. So, and that's how my body works. We're all different. We have to test different things on ourselves. So when she told me about this, I'm like, well, I'm going to try that. I'm going to start trying it. So this is day 1 of my going 16 hours without eating, and then just eating in an 8-hour block. And I've heard of it before, but I was never really very interested in doing it. But if I look at, as I get older, what's worked for me personally in the past, it's the exact opposite of what I need for my health and my body in the present moment, and probably going toward the future. So I'm like, she's been doing it for about a week. She said she was surprised how good she feels, and that it's not really that hard. All you do is, you don't eat after 8 or something, and then you don't eat before noon the next day. Well, I never ate breakfast. I always hated breakfast until my sudden cardiac arrest, and then I read all the data and all this stuff, and I thought, oh my gosh, the way you break your fast is you have breakfast in the morning. So I started eating breakfast. And for me, I've realized that when I eat breakfast, no matter what it is, and I've experimented with a lot of different things, I am hungry the whole freaking day. So if I look at my overall health and what worked best for me, it was after my sudden cardiac arrest, probably a couple years into it, where I ate like every couple hours. So I didn't eat big meals, but every couple hours I eat something. It might be fruit, might be a salad, might be whatever it was. Every few hours I was eating something. Problem with that is a freaking full-time job. I know very few people that can sustain and maintain that. The only way I got it to work for me was I actually was super boring and pretty repetitive, where I would have certain things for a snack every day. I would have the same thing pretty much every day, except for, the weekends and things. But it would be pretty much, I'd have a banana every morning. I'd have an apple in the afternoon. I'd have other celery and carrot sticks and things cut up. I'd have a salad for lunch. But I actually had things planned out and pre-made and prepped, which also took a lot of time, right? I would snack size things up ahead of time and have them in the refrigerator or have them in the pantry. I'd have little packets of crackers or snack mix or whatever made up, so all I had to do was grab it. So it made it easier for me, but it was still super duper time consuming. And although I probably was the healthiest I've ever felt, I don't feel like that was a sustainable lifestyle for me. So that's why I'm kind of excited to try this 16-hour thing, because it's totally doable. I don't care about breakfast. As long as I can have coffee and water in the morning, I don't mind waiting until noon to eat my first meal. So I do love breakfast foods though, so I might have to start eating breakfast for lunch or breakfast for supper or something. But I'm going to start that today. So today will be day one of that. The live challenge workshop is going to be March 23rd. And now my travel is kind of up in the air for March, so I'm kind of wishing I hadn't set that date, but since I've already set that date, that is when it will be. I'm going to work on the workbook today. I started yesterday, but my amazing little 4-year-old granddaughter had off school yesterday, so we had the whole day together, which is awesome. So I didn't really get to work on the workbook. And I will be perfectly honest, I should not be doing this. I should not be creating my own workbook. I should not be creating my own header graphics. I know that I shouldn't be doing any of it. But for this run through, I'm just doing it. I picked a background and I'm just going with it. I put it on the Thrive Challenge page. I put it on the Thrive Challenge, the Thrive Challenge group, the private group. I put it on my workbook. I picked it out. I'm like, it's not ideal, but I kind of like it. It's actually little bubbles of like silver and gold looking and iridescent bubbles. So I'm like, what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything, right? It just looked kind of cool and I liked it, so I picked it because there were thousands and millions of options. And at some point, you just have to say, I know it's not perfect. I know it's going to change, but this is what I'm going to go with this first time through. I'm going to see how it works. And if people say that is the stupidest looking header and background I've ever seen, guess what? I know that, and I'm going to change it. But I could spend months commiserating over it. What should my brand colors be? What should I do? What should my fonts be? I will tell you, I hate picking out fonts. There's too many choices. I hate picking out colors. I love color, right? I love lots of colors. If I could, I would have like colors of the rainbow everywhere. But to most people, that's chaotic and distracting and it drives them crazy. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to drive people crazy. I want them to feel comfortable and want to work with me. So working on that today, the workbook today. I want to get that ferreted out and streamlined and neat and organized. And then I got to get somebody to edit it for me and look at it with actually eyes that can see, to make sure there aren't mistakes and typos and things, because I don't mind if there's a couple, but I'd rather there not be a lot. That comes back from my old days of being a journalist where I hate typos. I don't like to make mistakes, and as my vision has gotten worse and worse, I make a lot more, and I'm a lot more forgiving on myself, but I still don't like it, right? But I also don't want to expect everybody to do everything and fix everything for me. I'm going to have to go to voice technology more and count on that. But even with voice technology, it doesn't correct your spelling for you. So I'll probably have to put in a layer of which I don't like doing either. I don't like middlemen. I like to do certain things myself, and engaging and building relationships. That's my thing. That's my piece. That's mine to decide who I want to work with going forward. So that's what I'm doing for the live challenge workshop. And I love workshops. I don't know, people don't supposedly like the word work, but the people I work with like the word work, because we know that work is just effort. It's just the energy we put into something is the energy that we get back out. And a lot of times if we do it right, the value that we put into something, the energy that we put into it, will return to us tenfold. And that's what we're looking for when we do workshops and things. So working on that. That is it. Knock wood, closing on my house next week. My granddaughter's going on her first airplane ride next week. It's going to be an exciting week. If I can help you in any way, ask the question. If you'd like to be a part of the live challenge, just put in the comments below whatever you want. Yes, sign me up. I want the LCW. You could put whatever you want to put it in the comments below. Just indicate in some way that you want the link and the invitation for that. Now, I'm going to be the first to admit, I have not created the funnel for that yet. Thinking tomorrow will probably be the day I create the funnel, because I want to do and pick the colors and the theme and stuff on my social media. I'm going to try very, very hard this time to be consistent across my platforms, because if there's anything I know that I have not been, and I'm sure it's hurting me in terms of the results that I want to achieve personally, it doesn't matter to anybody else, but it does to me, by having so much chaos and so much stuff associated with me. I have 18 Facebook pages. 18 Facebook pages is freaking ludicrous. I don't know how many groups. I bet I have 20 some groups that I run and manage and lead. I don't pay attention to 98% of them, but even the 2% I pay attention to, it's a lot. It's too much. I could not tell you how many different social media I'm on, how many platforms, a lot. But I will tell you, I know that I am different. I mean, it's all me, but my profile picture, my backgrounds, if I even have them, and a lot of them, I actually just put a background on LinkedIn, I think yesterday. I've never had one. It's been that blue starry background since I've been on LinkedIn, which probably isn't a great big huge deal, but it kind of is, because I've got 23,000 followers, not quite 23,000 people on LinkedIn that I'm connected to, and I'm like, here I've got this cheesy, and I haven't updated my LinkedIn profile for years. I need to go in and I need to update that. I need to do it so that I'm attracting the right people and they know what I can do for them. But I've never had one. Facebook, my Facebook pages and groups, the pictures on those are ridiculous. I mean, okay, Pajama Grandma, which I've been for about 3 years because it's me. It's ridiculous. I have a picture of me in curlers and a peach peignoir that I got from my mom, which kind of started the whole Pajama Grandma thing. And that picture's horrible, right? It's kind of like I look today, but I guess what people see is what they get. So by the time they've seen all the different profile pictures of me, or even one or two, when they see me, they're like, oh yeah, that is you. And I will tell you where I think and why I think that's a powerful example. Yesterday, I found a 5-day challenge by a very successful woman. I don't know her at all, and don't even know how I got on her 5-day challenge thing, but it was day 5 of her 5-day challenge. And so I signed up because I wanted to watch her videos and things. I'm auditing a lot of different people's challenges, right? Because I want to invite them on the podcast and interview them about how they do, why they do, what they do for their challenges, and what they think is the best thing about it. And I also want to interview people about the biggest challenges in their life. So if you want to be on Pajama Grandma podcast, again, just message me below and let me know, and I will send you the information, and we'll set it up. I've got a couple interviews this week, actually. I'm sneaking them in, and then my granddaughter's traveling for a couple of days, so I want to get as many in as I can at the end of the week and over the weekend, because it's quiet and I can actually do them, except for maybe the dogs. So, excuse me, foggy throat again. I'm watching the challenge, right? And I go to her, and so I'm watching and I'm looking at her page. Again, I don't know how I even got on it, but I'm looking at it. It was probably just a message in my messenger, and so I clicked over to it and was watching the day 5 video. Then I clicked onto her website because I want to see her workbook. What is her workbook? What's her worksheets that she's having people do? What are the actions she's having people do? Well, I still haven't gotten that. Maybe I've gotten it this morning, but I signed up through her funnel, which I got to tell you, the pictures of her are at least 10 or so years old, maybe longer, maybe 15. But the woman that you see on the videos, I was asking myself, is she the same woman in these pictures? And I'm sure she is. I'm sure they're from the time she worked with Tony Robbins and stuff. But beautiful pictures, beautiful lady. But there's a huge there was a mismatch to me in seeing her and seeing the images of her on the funnel, the web page that you signed up for her challenge on. And to me, everybody gets older, right? But as you get older, you need to update your stuff. Now, I will admit, my Facebook, and not my Facebook's pretty new. I think that's with my oh no, that's up the cabin. It says relax on it. That's a pretty current picture of me. But my LinkedIn picture, that I had done by a professional photographer probably 10 years ago. And so, but it's really interesting because my hair is the same length and style now again. For a long time it wasn't. I've had long hair, short hair, long hair in between that time. So people would see me on a video maybe, and then they'd see that profile picture and they're like, gosh, is that really still her? And it just reminded me that I need to make those things more consistent and current and update them. Loving her videos. I listened to 3 yesterday. Great information, very talented, very knowledgeable, yet there's something in the mismatch of the presentation makes me question the whole thing, right? So it was a reminder for me to be aware of how people see things. And I always want people to, when they meet me in real life, to be like, oh my God, I feel like I know you because I've watched your videos, I've seen your videos, and you are the exact same person in person as you are on your videos. And I try to be that. I just try to be me. So that was just a reminder yesterday to update my stuff. And I've been getting a lot of those reminders, so I really need to update my stuff. It's definitely time for a professional photo shoot. You know, somebody that can actually take pictures that aren't like selfies at the state park or me walking somewhere or whatever. And so my live video is for real life and how I am in the moment. My pictures, my professional persona needs to be polished, a little more polished. Okay, sisters, you've been telling me that for years. It's okay. So that's it. That's what I'm working on. If I can help you in any way, go ahead and ask. Otherwise, I will be with you tomorrow to update you on what I'm doing as I transition from the brick and mortar corporate world of business to the online world and help other business owners to supersize their businesses in ways that won't kill them. Because I've been there, I've done that. It's not that fun, the whole dying and trying to figure stuff out part. So if you can skip that part and just grow and build and supersize your business and create the life you want, it's a lot better than some of the alternatives. That's it. Have an absolutely awesome day. I will be with you tomorrow. Bye.